by Bellevue University
and Pyramid Roof Contractors on 1620 The Zone.
School sports are played by humans, coached by humans, and officiated by humans. So the next time you're sitting in the stands at a school athletic event, please remember this and maintain your humanity, especially when it comes to judging and critiquing athletes, coaches, and officials. Please show your fellow humans some respect. They'll appreciate your empathy.
This message presented by the NSAA and the Nebraska State Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
KOZ and Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. It's time to break down what went right and what went wrong during this week's game. Severe Reaction is on the air with your host, Michael Severe, and the most important voice of all, yours. Severe Reaction starts now. Powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Only on 1620 The Zone.
Huskers go I formation. Raiola under center. They are punched up around the line of scrimmage. Hand off to Dowdell off the right side. Touchdown, Nebraska. Dante Dowdell finds Pater. 6-0 Big Red. Let those balloons loose.
Easy math, Sharpie. 2 times 3 is 6. Give me all of them.
Huskers 7, Scarlet Knights nothing. Raiola's going to go under center. Tight formation left and right. Barney's kind of a wing now. He goes in motion. And motion's back. Turn. Inside handoff. It goes to Nair to the outside to the 5, and he is in. Touchdown, Shaniron Bonner. Shaniron Bonner off the right side with his trap play almost to the right. 6 points, Nebraska. They lead it 13-0.
So slick with the personnel packages and the motion. All eyes on jet sweep. No inside handoff. I mean, it's just a thing of beauty. And we got to go a little backwards. It's 18, but 8 minus 1 is 7. After this extra point, give me all of them.
We knew it was going to be a challenge. We talked a lot about the run game, and we knew number 0 was quite a player. Now one of their wideouts, Strong, was down. And we knew Cali Manis how good of a player he is because he beat us last year at Minnesota. Same type of game, right? 14-3, whatever it was. He makes the play down the stretch, taking 2 minutes. So it was like almost like what do they call Groundhog Day? It was almost Groundhog Day. He gets the ball back. He's going to go down there and score. But our defense practiced harder this week than they have probably in 2 years here, and I think that, what they put in came out kind of when the game started. And there was a lot of different guys. We played a lot of different guys, really adverse situations, and really a lot of 3rd and 4th down stops.
Happy Sunday morning. Welcome to Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone. We are live inside of the beautiful Capitol Street Studios. I am Michael Severe, joined by Joey, the producer, who played all the touchdowns right there for Nebraska. All in the first highlight. Just got them out of the way. Knocked them all out.
Mine as well.
Let's get them out of there. It feels so long since that Dowdell touchdown. Like, you played the highlight, and I go, was that last week? I was like, it feels like an eternity since the first touchdown. He scored 951-1620, 402-951-1620. It has been an exhaustive 6 weeks. The crazy thing is, it's been 6 weeks. The season is half over. Looking ahead to a bye week before Indiana. And the way games have been, the times of the games, personally, having to go to the band events after and around games, it has been absolutely I was thinking about next Saturday, and Joey and I were looking ahead to the schedule. There's a bunch of good games on the schedule. Central doesn't have a home game, so I'm not going to watch my kid in the band. Nebraska's not playing. They're on a bye, a much-needed bye to get healthy and get their mind right. The schedule is loaded with good games, whether it's 11, 2:30, 2 big ones at 6:30, 9 o'clock, just a bunch of great schedules. It's a day to barbecue. It's a day to sit on your porch, sit under your wherever, in your basement, whatever you want to do. That's next Saturday. But before we get there, we have this past Saturday, Nebraska moving to 5-1, 14-7 win over Rutgers. There was a day just filled with upsets across college football. This was one where the favorite won, and it was ugly. And it was exactly what we thought it would be. We thought it'd be an ugly game. Now, early in the week when we had to make picks for Big Red wrap-up, didn't know what the wind was going to be like. Didn't know it was going to be that windy. Really didn't have an idea that we'd have the warmest start for a football game at the University of Nebraska since 1985. Think about that. And there's been some hot games. I was there in 1998 against Louisiana Tech, August 31st start. I distinctly remember people being carried off out of the stands, and I was thinking to myself, as someone who was living in Louisiana at the time, it isn't that hot, but it was hot. There've been other games, a Michigan game, UTEP. This season was warm, but not 97 degrees. Start time at the game was 97 degrees, and we had what Nebraska is known for, right? What do they always say? If you don't like the weather, just wait a little while. It'll change. Before the game, we're watching the kickers, and they're negotiating, what direction, how they're going to kick. Are they going to low line drives into the wind? And early on, if you were kicking to the South Stadium, you had no luck early on. This is like probably 10. No, wait, hold on. This game started at 3, so about 1:30. At 1:30, we were watching this, and they're trying to kick the ball, whether they're punting or field goals, to that direction. And really no luck. Just balls just getting slapped down by the wind. The last person to do anything on the field before everything gets started with the band and everything is usually Nebraska's kickoff guy. So Buschini goes out there, he has a holder, and he kicks off towards South Stadium. And all of a sudden, we're like, wait a minute, he's kicking it all the way to the goal line now. Before that, it was not getting to the 15. The wind turned. From when the game was being worked on by both teams to when the kickoff happened, the wind turned. So Nebraska, instead of deferring like normally, like most times they do, they take the ball because they know that's going to get them the win because they know the wind has changed. I'm not sure that Rutgers knew that, because what Rutgers could have done is could have gone the other way when Nebraska decided to take the ball. If they wanted to, they didn't. I think they were thinking the wind was still going towards South Stadium. So all of a sudden, Nebraska gets the ball and they get the wind to start off with, which I don't think Rutgers knew was happening. And then at the end of the game, again, in the fourth quarter, not like it mattered, Nebraska's offense was really struggling at this point, but they had the wind again. It's such a strange situation in that stadium. Yes, it is a bowl, and now you have the wind kind of going in this little weird circle. But at the same time, when the ball's in the air, depending on where, if it's a punt or a pass, a deep pass, the wind can really still affect what's happening in the game. But this is a situation where you have to remember there are no style points. When you look back at this game, no style points. You win the game, you go home, you're happy. You don't get extra points for blowing somebody out. You don't get extra points for winning a one-score game. You don't get extra points for being clean. You don't get extra points from being dirty. You don't get extra points. All you get is this column that says win and loss. Used to have tie on there. There's no ties anymore. Wins and losses. And it was a predictable game because Rutgers wants to play this game. Rutgers wants to have games to where they have a lot of third downs. That may sound a little crazy because the majority of teams in college football don't want a bunch of third downs. They want to execute in the early downs, first and second down, and not have third downs. That's your goal. That's how you win. But Rutgers likes to have third downs and even fourth downs because they think they can wear you down with their run game. And very early on, I think everybody in that stadium and watching at home thought, uh-oh. Because Monungai early on, first 8 carries, 64 yards, he was rolling. But Nebraska fixed it. And we'll get to that a little bit later, what the Black Shirts have done and how they handle that. But Nebraska won a game. Nebraska won a game getting 2 punts blocked. Their quarterback having an extremely tough day, especially second half, against a very good defense that was doing things to confuse a freshman. Nebraska had a point where they had 6 straight punts. They forced just 1 3-and-out, and they won the game. Any one of those things can conspire for you to lose the game. Any two of them, it's probably a good chance that a Nebraska team before this would have lost the game. But they won the turnover battle again. They shut down Rutgers in the second half. And they had, again, I think this is the third or fourth one since Matt Rule's been here, a dynamic goal line stance. 5 plays, because you don't count the holding in the end zone. 5 plays, 0 yards for Rutgers after the block punt. Do you know how hard in 2024, with the way offenses are, to limit a team to no yards from inside the 5-yard line? It just doesn't happen. But Nebraska did it. The Black Shirts did it. And it was the key to the game. A long punt, a 69-yard punt, and an amazing goal line stand. That was the key to the game. Much more coming up. We're going to get to a lot of stuff. We got good, bad. We got the keys to the game. And, of course, your phone calls, 402-951-1620. We start with Scott. Good morning, Scott. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm good, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm a little tired. I'm looking forward to the bye week.
Yeah, I guess the fans need it too, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Outstanding. Hey, wanted to mention just 3 things. Sorry if I missed it. The 3rd and 4th down conversions, if you look at the stats, just the polarization,
yep.
A lot of the rest of the game was pretty even. Those were just markedly different. Nebraska did outstanding especially on the defensive side there. You mentioned the block punt. I was looking this morning on the final drive on BTN. If you watch Nate Borkacher, when that ball is caught after the block, he's 8 or 9 yards behind the play. That's a play that 95% of players in his position, you'll concede a touchdown. He catches the guy, and he's the reason that the whole goal line stand exists. So I thought that is outstanding. Kind of a culture play, right? And so I love that. The other thing I wanted to mention is, and I'll say this with a qualifier of, I love Raiola, fantastic player. The one thing I'd love to hear your thoughts on, I think his escapability in the pocket is well below average. When he rolls out by design, he's wonderful. But his escapability, maybe that's just a learned trait at the college level, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I think it's a big deal. I think you have to have, he's never going to be just athletic back there escaping sacks, but you need some degree of ability to escape pressure to a degree. So appreciate you, man. Have a great weekend. Bye.
You too, Scott. I appreciate it. 3rd down conversions you were mentioning. 3rd and 4th down conversions was one of the things I highlighted for good for Nebraska, what they did, the way they handled it. So on 9+ 3rd down conversions for Rutgers, that means you've got 3rd down and 9 or more to go. They had 5 of those. 5 of those. They were 1 of 5. They had 5 3rd and shorts. That's 1 to 4. And they went 1 of 5. That's 2 of 10 on those 3rd downs. The average yards to go for Rutgers was 7.9 yards. When you have that much to go, you're going to have a bad conversion rate. But when you have Nebraska playing the way they did in the second half and the pressure they were putting on Kaliakmanis and everything else, you're going to be in a situation like that. In terms of the escapability of Dylan Raiola, it's funny because that was one of the things I thought was an attribute of his. You saw it in high school, the high school video, right? And then in the first few games, several times he was in the pocket, felt the pressure, either climbed or just moved a little bit out of the way and got away from the defender. And I thought that was kind of a strength of his. But the last couple of weeks, you're right. In the game against Purdue, remember that sack where he didn't see the guy coming? He rolls, he does a little half roll. He's looking downfield, and that's great. Eyes downfield is great, but didn't see the guy coming up and thought he could make him miss, but it was too late. That happened also against Illinois, where I think he thought he could get away and he couldn't. And then you look at this game, 4 sacks, a couple of them, it were just jailbreaks. But you're right. A couple times he had time back there, probably could have done a better job of moving away from the pressure and didn't. He was just off, man. You're going to have, if you're a freshman, starting freshman in college football, playing in the Big Ten, so 9 conference games, unless you're Rutgers, who has, if you look at their schedule, it's incredibly easy. They avoid almost all the best teams. Anyway, most teams aren't going to have that schedule. You're going to probably play 4 ranked teams at some point during that year. Whether maybe you got Ohio State on your schedule, Michigan on your schedule, Penn State on your schedule, USC on your schedule, you're going to have teams that are going to be ranked and to be pretty good. So if a true freshman has, say, 2 out of his 12 games where he struggles, that's really good. So far, this true freshman has won. He's played 6 games, and he has 1 game where he just didn't look good. And it's not even in the whole game. It's the second half. Now, he throws a pick that I've seen NFL quarterbacks throw. It's an RPO. In your mind, you're drilled. Catch this snap. Boom, bam, gone, right? Catch, rock, and throw. That's the phrase they like to use, especially back in the Big 12 when you had a lot of those RPOs getting started. So it was a high snap. So takes off the rhythm a little bit. And then he didn't necessarily do a good job pre-snap. The pre-snap for the RPO is the biggest thing. Where's that linebacker? Who's going to drop? Who do I have to worry about? What's my most dangerous place on the field? And the most dangerous place on the field for him was right where he threw the ball. And by the way, behind the most dangerous player, the wide receiver was covered anyway. It would have either been an incomplete or a ball popped up in the air or something like that. So it just wasn't a good decision. Now, before that decision, I thought he'd been playing pretty well. And then immediately after the decision, he played okay again. I think he was like 2 out of his next 3. But then he went on that stretch where he just really struggled. And the thing that stood out to me the most, and this is, and I obviously wasn't a great player. I wasn't. But one of the things I think about a lot when I watch quarterbacks is sometimes things just get into your head and they affect your eyes. And you saw it 2 or 3 times with Dylan Raiola late or in the 3rd and 4th quarter. One time it was a 3rd down. They bring Barney in motion, and they are giving Raiola an easy throw. This is a play that the Kansas City Chiefs run all the time. They ran it with Tyreek Hill once, I remember, on a Monday night when they had like 3rd and 2, and Mahomes was out of the game. They had the backup quarterback in. And it's an easy throw. You come in motion, that sprinting wide receiver's heading towards the sideline. All you have to do is catch, throw it. The defender can't get over fast enough. He gets the 2-3 yards as a first down. Had that play set up perfectly, heading to North Stadium, and he doesn't make the throw. Just doesn't throw it. Or actually heading to South Stadium, doesn't make the throw. Now, that's probably something in his head thinking, I'm worried about making this throw because maybe it's not a good throw, and the defender breaks on, and all of a sudden, they score a touchdown. Our defense is playing so well, I don't want to do it. So your brain starts messing with your eyes. Happened in a quarter before that. There's another time where they're running a sprint out trying to get the wide receiver open, and he's open underneath. Instead of making that throw, like immediately clicking in his head, I got to get rid of the ball, he comes back late across the middle to Fedoni, and it's almost intercepted. Something was going on with what. First of all, Greg Schiano is a great defensive mind, so let's remember that. But something was going on in that game with the translation from what Raiola was seeing to what he was able to do. It was very obvious. Now, again, he is a true freshman making only his 6th start against a coordinator who has done this job in the NFL and done it well. And he had him a little shook. And sometimes you will see a ghost. You will think to yourself, if I throw this, I might get picked. I might have a problem to the point where I get picked. So I don't make the throw. It happened at least twice, probably more than that. But two times on 3rd down, conversions could have been made, and he saw something or felt something that stopped him from making an easy throw that he normally would make. And that's going to happen with a freshman. Let's go to Mark, 402-951-1620. Good morning, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Michael?
Doing pretty good.
Hey, I want to say hello to my brother-in-law, John, out in Colorado, but that's not my question. It seemed, I think he's listening, but it seemed to me that they used Ramir a lot in the first half and maybe into the second half and really effectively. And then he kind of disappeared. I didn't go look at the participation charts or anything, but am I reading that right?
No, I agree with you. I think one of the biggest problems Nebraska's had is how they are handing out carries to their running back. It's very uneven. There's no rhythm to it. There's no rhythm to it at all. I agree with you.
Yeah, he had a couple of nice runs in the first half, and he had maybe 2 or 3 catches too. And then he was just absent most of the second half. So anyway, okay, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, he had 1 target in the second half. 1 target in the second half. I'm looking at the numbers right now. After having 2 targets and 3 or 4 carries in the first half. You're right.
Yeah, and he had like, I don't know, 50, 60 yards total, didn't he, between rushing and receiving?
He had 36 yards receiving, and he had 34 yards. Yeah, yep.
There you go.
Yep, you're right.
Anyway.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Mike.
Appreciate it. Yeah, that's something that, and it's weird because, especially when you ask coaches about it, some coaches, offensive-minded coaches, control everything. Like, everybody's in the game. And then other coaches, and I think this is what Matt Rule does, is he allows his position coaches to figure out who's going in and when. And so you've got EJ making these decisions on, who's got the hot hand. I like to say that there are certain, courses for horses and tracks for backs. There's certain plays that different running backs do better. And so I get that. But there are times where you're like, well, because Emmett Johnson was kind of struggling. And I thought that Ramir was actually having some better runs, but they kind of stuck with Emmett Johnson. Dowdell had one really good run, then he was struggling. So, I get it. You're trying to find the back that fits what you're trying to do the best. And they had a decent day. I mean, it'd been a much better day if you take away those sack yards. The sack yardage really hurt what Nebraska did running the ball. But if you look at just the running backs, Dowdell was 14 of 57. Ramir was 5 of 34. And Emmett Johnson was 14 of 33. Now, that's not great. But they lost 32 yards from Dylan Raiola sacks. So, and run. So that makes it look much worse. In the end, they were 42 rushes for 97 yards, which, you take 30, you add those 32 back on there, and it's a nice day running the ball. One more call before we take a break. We'll go to David. Good morning, David.
Oh, hey, Michael. This is Dave Truba. I don't know if you remember me, but I've chatted with you a bit before. I'm calling from Taiwan, actually. It's after 9 p.m. here.
Oh, wow, man. That's incredible. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, well, I listen to all the programs, listening to you. And firstly, I just want to say that I appreciate everything you do with the Jet Foundation, your work as a journalist, following your family on Twitter and the social accounts. So you're an amazing person. But I'll just ask you this question, and then I'll hang up and listen over here because I'm not so sure the Wi-Fi and the time lag and all that will let me do much more than that. But everybody's calling for Ed Foley and talking about special teams. But if you were, let's say, to break down percentage-wise what the issues are with special teams, if we had 4 categories, let's say the first was coaching.
Yeah.
The second was talent. The third was how much focus they put into it in practice. And maybe the fourth would be like circumstances, things that happen, such as Alvano's injury. What are the problems, percentage-wise with the special teams, and what can they do to improve on them? So I'll ask you that question, then I'll hang up and let you go. Thanks so much,
David. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Calling from Taiwan, that's awesome. So I want to say the third one you asked, that's not the issue. They focus on it. They practice it. They concentrate on it. They have really good players playing on the return teams and the coverage teams. So they focus on it. That's not the issue. A big part of it is Tristan Alvano and his injury. It is. I think if he's fully healthy in his second year, he was set to have a really good year. I really do believe that. One part of it is personnel simply outside of Alvano, because they thought they had a long snapper who was going to be fine, was going to step right in and take over from Marco Ortiz, and he was going to be really good, and he struggled. And he struggled early on. It wasn't just when the game started. He was struggling getting ready for the first game. I watched them work out, and snaps weren't good. So that's been an issue all along. Other than that, I think the biggest thing, more than anything else, is you got to have a good long snapper for all of this thing. And they have some breakdowns that are on the coaches and on the players. The second block, I don't know what they were doing. Snap wasn't great, but still, I don't know what they were doing. It's kind of like that low closing the gate with the 3-man protection and letting the guy come up the middle and just block it like that. And they almost got Bushini killed on the first one. It's a combination of a bunch of things, and I really like Ed Foley, and I hope they get it turned around so Ed Foley is back next year. But you cannot have one element. You can't have one phase of your team being this bad and go forward. You just can't as a head coach. So Matt Rule will make the right decision. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Of course, brought to you by Equitable Bank, way to take banking personally, and by Nebraska Medicine. Nebraska Medicine always looking for great people to be employed there. So look out and reach out to Nebraska Medicine as well. We'll be back. We'll look at some of the good and some of the bad and take your phone calls here on Severe Reaction.
See if Brian can pin him deep. Nebraska drive stalls. Good snap. Buschini gets deflected. It's a partial block, and Nebraska will down it at the Rutgers 34-yard line. So they come after Buschini, who's lame. He's hurt in the middle of the field. It's not a penalty because they got a chunk of the ball. We knew they would come after Nebraska's kicks. Rutgers under Schiano, one of the best in the country, and they get one here early. And Brian awaits the snap. Good snap this time, and it's blocked. Rutgers blocks the ball, picks it up at the 15, racing to the 10, 5, and diving for the pylon. I think he's out of bounds inside the 5. It was Loyal who scooped it up after the block, and they're going to mark it at the 2-yard line, and now Rutgers in business. Second block punt of the day.
I got out there, and he wasn't moving, so I was concerned, obviously. And he was like, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. It's just my, I forget it was my back hip. And got to the side, and I said, hey, can you just throw the fake punt for me? And he was like, yes, I can throw the fake punt. And then we had Johnny Hull kick off. And, I said, well, can you throw it into the wind? Just, and he was like, yeah, I can throw it in the wind. So he was just locked in. I think he's the guy who's burned the boats in his brain. He's going to do whatever it takes. And medically, he was fine. Just, I think he just took a big hit and was hurt, just felt it.
There are so many grown men and women in that press box that when they replayed the first block and you saw Brian Buschini kind of get jackknifed. I mean, it's like his body bent in a way that human bodies aren't supposed to bend.
It was just amazing how he was able to still perform through the rest of the game. That was early in the game when...
It was amazing that he could walk.
Yeah. Amazing.
Watching him walk made me think, that's how I look every day when I wake up. He was kind of like grabbing for his back. He kind of had like a left leg kind of little thing going. I was like, dude, You look like you're 60. But he got leveled, but got up and came back and was truly one of the, if you want to, he's probably the co-MVP of the game because he's the
Definitely.
MVP along with James Williams, because James Williams over the last quarter of that game was a beast. And so you got to give him a lot of credit as well. But man, that was, what a performance by Brian Buschini. He's now Boom Sheeny again. He's got his nickname back. But that everybody in the booth was like,
they were.
Show the
So
replay.
Sue was at the game, so they were doing the Sue chant.
I heard that.
Now
yeah.
they're doing the Boo
The
chant.
boos, yeah. As soon as Sue came out, Sue is still and will always be a guy that every Nebraska fan. One, I mean, obviously you just admired the freakishness of him and the way he played, but there's just something about that guy. He represents Nebraska in a way of toughness and greatness that they haven't had since.
Yeah.
He should have won the Heisman. He won every other award. I'll never forget 2018 opening game against Akron. We're dealing with the weather delay, and Ndamukong Suh walks across the field just by himself. And the people went nuts. Just Sue chants and cheering. It was incredible. He'll always be that guy for Nebraska.
Yeah.
Because of what he did while he was here and then after as well. And he'll be a Hall of Famer in the NFL. Let's go back to the phones, 402-951-1620. That's where Lisa is this morning. Good morning, Lisa.
Oh, good morning, Michael. First of all, I just want to tell you, you are so incredible at what you do.
That's nice.
And thank you for taking this call. You just covered actually a lot of the things I wanted to talk about, and that was Buschini. What an incredible job he did yesterday, and I really felt he did deserve the game ball.
Yeah.
And I will admit I don't know a lot about reffing and all that, but I really did think that was a bad call. I thought he was hit, and I guess if you could explain why that was not called when he took that, like you said, it bent his body so bad. I'm amazed he was able to do so well. And then that throw that he made was incredible.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to talk about that, or wanted you to talk about that. And thank you so much. And again, I love, love, love your show. Thank you so much. And I'll hang up now.
Thanks, Lisa. Have a great Sunday. So two things, like you said, once the ball is tipped, once the defender gets their hand on it, everything's off. You can do what they did to Brian Buschini. They got a piece of it. So once you get a piece of it, you can truck them. You can do whatever you want once you get a piece of it. So there's no roughing or running into the kicker at that point. And so Brian Buschini, after the game, is talking about the fake punt. Apparently, at halftime, now Coach Rule had said that he thought about calling it before the first punt that got blocked. He thought about calling it before the second punt that got blocked. But at halftime, according to Brian Buschini, they actually went over to the grass practice field and practiced the throw because they wanted to be in the correct direction of the wind to see if he could do it. And he had been working on that and working on his throwing motion since he's been there. So imagine the thoughtfulness. Again, no matter what you think about Coach Rule, you'd want Coach Rule to run your household because he never, ever lets all the bills be paid on time. All the laundry would be done. The dog was walked because he never lets anything slide by. The fact that they said, you know what, let's run out to the practice field. No, not go to the strip next to it and just throw there on the AstroTurf. No, let's go all the way over to the practice field because that's in the direction of what I'm going to be throwing. That's crazy to think about.
I don't know if you catch this yesterday from Josh Peterson, but his dad messaged him in the group chat with their family. They were in the concession stands and saw them practicing it.
Really?
And he told Josh, don't be surprised them
if they fake it.
Fake it, yeah.
I didn't see that. I didn't hear that. That was during Big Radio Overreaction.
Yeah, that was yesterday, and that was mentioned on Twitter as well.
Yeah, I missed that. But it's incredible that they would do that. That they would say, "Okay, I want to make sure this is right." And he threw a great pass.
Yeah.
And so there were two plays in the game that Nebraska probably should have scored on, or at least had huge plays on. That just one little tackle. So the fake punt. Jalen Lloyd probably makes that guy miss most times and scores.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're backed up on the goal line and you run power to the right to Dowdell and it opens wide. and he makes one guy miss, then it's a race. I don't think he wins the race just based off of his size and stuff. I think he gets caught, but he's over the 50-yard line. He's probably got a 40, 50, 60-yard run.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
There's another.
You can say whatever you want.
There's another potential play Nebraska could have scored on, and that was that 4th and goal stop where Nebraska almost got an interception.
Pick 6.
Yeah, a potential pick 6.
Yep, he threw it right to number 3, I believe is what it was.
Yep,
he threw it right to him, and he had a chance of going in the direction. But yeah, those just a couple of plays. Those two really specifically, when he threw the ball, when Buschini threw the ball to Lloyd, I thought he was going to score. Because you got one guy to make somebody miss, and Lloyd's really athletic, and we know how fast he is. I thought that was it, but that happens sometimes where they make a tackle, and it was a game that, like the fake field goal that Rutgers had was just ridiculous. And again, to have a game where you have 2 block punts and you still win, to have 5 plays from inside the 5 and they don't get a yard. It was a weird game. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We're gonna get into some numbers. Interesting. Most of them are pretty ugly. One of them is amazing what Nebraska did yesterday. We'll do that when we come back here. Reminder again, brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally, and our friends at Nebraska Medicine as well, taking care of you and your family all the time, every day. We'll come back here, 402-951-1620. That was the play that Joy was talking about, almost the pick 6 right there. When we come back here on Severe Reaction.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
42-yard attempt. He's just 2 of 4 in the year. Along with 36 was really good last year, though. 15 of 18.
He's on the right hash. He's going to have to bring this back quite a bit. Look at that wind.
See if he can kick it into this breeze. 42-yard attempt. Snap down. Oh, fake. They took through the up man. He's tackled short of the first down. So they fake it as the up man made the grab and tried to go off the right side. Sierra Wright sniffed it out. No gain. Huskers take over on downs. Snap down. Patel's kick sailing towards the uprights, and the kick is no good. Hit the upright. He missed it. Huskers have held. It's still a 7-0 Nebraska lead. Calumet Ennis motions a wide out. Gets the snap. Looking left, throwing left, and nearly picked off. Huskers have stopped him. Will take over on downs at the 2-yard line. What a stand by the Black Shirts. 2nd and 5. 10:25 left. 14-0 NU. Brown the back. Kaliak Menace. 10-25 now. Back to throw. Steps, throws. Deep fade down the near sideline. He's got a man out there, and he can't make the catch. He dropped it. Ben Black had beat the coverage and couldn't hang on to the football. It was perfectly thrown. That would have been 6 points. Now you got 3rd and 5.
Yeah, I don't even think, respectfully, I don't think it's like even like, hey, you can do this. I think it's more like, how do you do this? And how do you do it is you don't start looking at the scoreboard and the clock hoping that it runs down. You play. I'm like, just go play. And so even at the end, like, they got that first down on 4th down, and like you didn't see our group look dejected. You didn't see them. The defense just lined back up and played again. And Buschini you need some guys to make some plays, right? Buschini makes that punt. Like that punt's amazing in that condition. So,
welcome back to the reaction here on 1620 The Zone. Joey, I do this with my kids a lot. There's certain truths in life. Okay, in geometry, you'd call them proofs, right? Givens. You have a given in life.
Yeah.
A given in life is ain't nobody named Timmy picking up a first down for you. Maybe a Tim, maybe a Timothy, but Timmy ain't getting you a first down.
No.
It's 4th and 3. You've got the second best running back yards wise in the Big Ten. Instead of giving him the ball, you line up in field goal formation and you let Timmy try to get a first down. Timmy ain't going nowhere.
No.
Timmy is not getting you a first. No way is anyone named Timmy. As soon as I saw his name was Timmy, I'm like, he ain't getting a first down. There ain't no way in the world. Timmy, no. Anyway, I thought that was silly.
That was the weirdest
That's
play
the weird.
I've seen.
And it took forever.
Yeah.
Like they just sat there. You gotta, so you line up and you go quick. That way, maybe the defense doesn't have a chance to look it over. They waited 10 seconds in field goal formation.
Yeah, Nebraska was ready for that.
And they were ready for it.
Jumped on the right side.
Because they had 10 seconds to look up the name of the holder and realize his name was Timmy. And like, we ain't got to worry about this. There's no way in the world Timmy's going to do anything against us. It made no sense. I didn't understand it at all. Let's go back to the phones. 402-951-1620. Let me say this. So the guy the person on line one, his name is Phil. And for probably 6 or 7 years of me doing this show when I first started doing it, when it said Phil, it was Pudgy. And Pudgy owned a pizza shop, and Pudgy was from Chicago, and Pudgy had a Chicago accent, and Pudgy would call and give us a hard time. Pudgy's been gone for a long time now. We miss Pudgy. When I see Phil up there, I think about Pudgy, and I miss him. I miss his pizza. I miss his phone calls. Let's go back to the phones, 402-951-1620. That's where Phil is this morning. Good morning, Phil.
Hey, Michael. First, I want to start by saying Bandad's rule.
What'd you say?
I said Bandad's rule.
Yes, that's true. Thank you, Phil. Yes, bad dads and bad moms rule. Yes, definitely.
Yes, they do as well. But I just wanted to remind everybody, we're talking about how Ed Foley needs to be gone and everything, but he is the same coach that told those guys to go out there at halftime and practice that fake punt.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I'm not calling. I'm not calling for Ed Foley to be fired. I hope he's. I hope he's back. I really do.
There are so many people that say, "Well, he's our problem." Well,
right.
Newsflash: the coach isn't the one that goes out there and keeps those boys safe so they don't get hurt. The coach isn't the one that goes out there and kicks the ball.
No, they have to execute the plan, and the greatest plans aren't executed when man doesn't get it done. So yeah, you're right, Phil. I mean, it's both sides. Thanks. I think I lost Phil. Also, one more thing. Speaking of people that are no longer with us, yesterday was my friend Nitin Gambhir's birthday. Nitin passed away. I want to say it's 4 years ago now. I think it's 4 years ago. Maybe it's 3 years ago. But Nitin was one of the biggest Husker fans I've ever known. Loved the Huskers with all his being, and would have loved to see Nebraska sitting at 5-1 through 6 weeks with a freshman quarterback who's all potential in the world in front of him, a defense just shutting down. Let me tell you something that I thought was remarkable. So Rutgers had 9 drives that crossed the 50-yard line. They got in Nebraska territory 9 times. I've talked about this before. For finishing drive rate, it's crossing the 40. But if you cross into the opponent's territory, on average, you should score at least 30% of the time. That's a field goal or a touchdown. You should score. Based off of national averages, you cross the 50, you should score at least a third of the time. 9 times they were in Nebraska territory. They had the 1 touchdown, obviously, late. 1 missed field goal, 1 INT, 2 failed fourth downs, and 4 punts. They punted from the 43, the 44, and from the 45 twice. Nebraska's 45 twice. Nebraska's 44 and 43-yard line. 4 punts after crossing the 50-yard line. That does not happen. You can go through box scores and box scores. That does not happen. Nebraska's defense stood up. The entire team should give a game ball to Nebraska's defense and the way they played and the way they took care of some really bad situations. We mentioned the block punt and having the ball where they had that. There's a couple other times where Nebraska put themselves in situations, whether it be with the interception or failing on fourth down or whatever, not failing on fourth down, but not converting on third down and having to punt. They put themselves in bad situations. Again, Rutgers had 1 3-and-out. By the way, it was 3 plays minus 16 yards. The 1 3-and-out was 3 plays minus 16 yards because of a sack. And with all that happening, Nebraska's defense continued to step up. We'll take a break. We'll come back. A couple different things. After 9 o'clock, we'll hear from Stephen M. Sipple. He'll join us here on Severe Reaction. We'll continue taking your phone calls. And I still want to get to that stat I was talking about that it's just remarkable that Nebraska's been doing and how they've been playing defensively. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Drew, stay right there. We'll catch up with you when we come back here on Severe Reaction.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
Jody's the wing to the near side, 2 wide, split near side, Banks outright. Turn, fake the handoff, looking, throwing right, pass intercepted. Picked off of the flat at the 40-yard line. It's picked up by Flip Dixon to midfield and knocked out of bounds at the Nebraska 43-yard line. So Dylan's 3rd pick of the year, as Flip Dixon stepped in front of that one and returns it to the Scarlet Knight 40-yard line.
Unfortunately, he's played some good football. That slant wasn't there to begin with, and he read it.
Huskers have backs on each hip, Barney being one of them, Emmett the other. 2 wideouts left. 3rd down and 6 on the 33. Barney splits out. Rolling the pocket left is Dylan. Holding, now being flushed out of the pocket, gets hit and thrown down. Sacked back at the 20-yard line by Hamilton.
Had him in the flats, too.
And it loses about 13 yards to the 20-yard line. Now does Shiano use a timeout? He does.
I mean, hats off to their defense. They played a heck of a game, had a great plan against us. I mean, those games happen. I hate to say it, but I mean, we just got to go back, and I thought it was a really good defense coming into this game. So our defense stepped up big time when we needed them, and couldn't be more grateful for them. And even our punter, I mean, Bushini is just a true just representation of our program, and couldn't be more proud to have that defense. And yeah, I mean, we won the game. That's all that matters.
Exactly. You win the game. There's no style points, none of that. You win, you're 5-1. Very true. And they played great defense. If there's a picture in the dictionary Kids is a book that's got a bunch of words in it. And the words disgusted, the little caption picture is easily Aaron Rodgers. No one has a more disgusted look on their face when something goes wrong than Aaron Rodgers. It is incredible. That's a crazy play. Yeah, it's 3-0, by the way, over in Europe, and you just had a guy get blocked and another guy on a punt, and because of the Jets recovered the ball. Let's go back to the phones, 402-951-1620. That's where Drew is. Good morning, Drew. How are you?
Hey, Michael, doing well, and I'm glad you played those clips with Dylan because it flies right in the face of my point.
Okay.
I just don't think Dylan's getting enough credit for yesterday, considering the conditions. And so there was a flyover that got canceled. This wasn't normal Midwestern wind.
Right.
So the flyover was canceled. It was a 40-mile-an-hour swirling wind. And also Bushini, I mean, everyone loves Bushini, but when you're next to Iowa and you see what they do over there, you kind of temper your accolades for him. I think his average might be in the 30s, high 30s, maybe solid.
He's had a lot of, but Drew, he's had more short field punts. Yeah. But yesterday he averaged 50 yards a punt.
Yeah. And he had a 70-yard punt.
Yep. 69.
So yesterday was just a little odd.
Yep.
And the reality is, and I love Harburg, if Harburg's our starter, we lose that game. For Dylan to complete basically 50% of his passes and convert some third downs, we don't win that game. Outside of Zach Taylor, I don't know another quarterback this century that could have completed those passes. Now on the other side, but yeah, he's not MVP, but he did enough. And people are saying, oh, he had a bad game. We don't win without him. So the Rutgers quarterback, I think, was completing 60% of his passes on the year, and he's a fifth-year senior.
Yep.
He was like 15 of 37 with 2 and should have been 3 picks.
Yep.
So that just shows how difficult the situation was. Whereas if, the weather affected them too, but I just, let's not dump on Dylan because without his, 13 of 27 in difficult conditions, I don't know we win that. And last thing, for some old Husker heads here, and I just heard about the Vanderbilt Alabama game, but and Michael, I know you probably saw it.
Yeah.
Did Vanderbilt have a lot of shovel passes against Alabama? I heard. Does that sound right?
I did see a few, but they also had a defensive pick 6, and they had turned them over. I think 3 times they turned over Alabama too. That was a big key.
Well, when I heard shovel pass, all I thought was, I bet Kevin Cosgrove is smiling. That's the only thing he took away from Texas Tech, Oklahoma's, was the shovel passes, as we know that. All right, Dylan, as he admitted, not a good game, but I mean, if you look at comparison to the Ruck, I mean, it was just a tough day to throw, and they are a good defense. So that's just all my babble.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I appreciate it, Drew. You're right. And you're right. I mean, he made plays. It was really late in the game is when he had his biggest struggles, and I think by that point they were getting extra pressure on him, and they were causing him to think a couple times. There's really only 2 or 3 plays that I can think of that I would say that and I'm sure he's already looked at the tape and he's already wants them back. He already wants to make that play better because he knows what he didn't do, and he's going to get. But I tell people all the time, think about what this guy is going to be. A year in the program, strength and conditioning, everything else, and experience of playing in the Big Ten. Imagine what he's going to be next year. How good he'll be. That's what I always tell people. Back to the phones where Wyatt is. Good morning, Wyatt. How are you?
I'm doing good. How's it going?
I am sitting here watching a football game, and waiting for your kids to start screaming. There we go.
Well, they're right here, so there's a high probability of that, actually.
No doubt.
Michael!
Hello!
Okay.
Michael!
Daddy's going to talk real quick. Okay, sorry. First, I was at the game yesterday. I want to say hi to my friends, Jay and his family. They're driving back down to Texas right now.
Oh, nice.
And we had a great time. But I would say, like, if we keep all things equal with the game, but say Dylan just plays like 5% better, or just makes like just a few more passes.
Yep.
I think it's probably. I imagine it's a much more comfortable win under those circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 sacks he took, and one of them was on that play where he didn't throw it out to Barney. If he complete those are third down plays, all of a sudden you probably have at least one more touchdown.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So so overall, I mean, it was a close game, but I feel pretty comfortable overall.
Was it really hot? What side of the field were you on, Wyatt?
We're across from the press box, up in the new expanded area.
Okay, so you were on the east side with the sun.
Yeah.
Was it really hot, or what was the feel like?
No, actually, it was just fine because it was really because with that wind,
yeah,
and it wasn't humid. It was actually pretty pleasant for my, and I get hot easily, so I was just fine.
Okay, cool. Appreciate it. I'll see you tomorrow.
Sounds good to me.
All right, cool. Go back to one more phone call before we take a break and get to Stephen M. Sipple. That's Henry. What's up, Henry?
Oh, hey, Michael.
Hey.
I hope you can hear me okay. I'm driving on the interstate after a weekend in Chicago.
Okay, I can hear you good. Go ahead, Henry.
Okay, good. Yeah. Hey, I was curious about. I watched the game, and Manungai just had a huge first quarter for them. I think he had more than 70 yards.
64 yards. He had 64 yards on 8 carries in the first quarter.
And then he finished with under 100, I think.
78. He finished with 78. Yep.
So what happened there? What did they adjust, or did they get away from him because of the fact they got down 2 scores? I was just curious because I thought they were really going to ride him during that game.
Henry, did you notice that Nebraska played more 4-man front yesterday than they've played in, I think, the whole 2 years that Rule's been here? I think that was a big part of it. And I think also that Rutgers got away from it a little bit too quickly and tried to rely too much on Caligmanis to make passes in that win.
Yeah, that's probably so.
Hey, how about that? How about that win by the Eagles on Friday night? Last second.
Hey, yeah, I all I saw was the score. I don't know anything about it.
Hey, go to my Twitter page. I got a really good video of the touchdown pass that won the game.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I will do that. Yeah, I had a fun time in Chicago. I was visiting a buddy. I ended up watching the game. I was at a Missouri Tigers bar. My buddy's a Missouri Tigers fan, and that was a dismal afternoon. But but I even put on some Tigers gear because of we know who they were playing yesterday.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was a fun weekend.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, Henry, we appreciate it, man.
You bet. Talk to you later, Michael.
I appreciate that. Yeah, they if you feel bad for your team, I always say this, there's somebody really suffering. And Missouri fans who have gotten pretty lucky in a couple games this year where they probably should have lost, not only took it on the chin, but A&M put it on them. Finally got their quarterback healthy. He had a shoulder injury. He ran. He threw. That was a butt whipping. It could be worse. It always can be worse. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll get to Stephen M. Sipple on the other side, 402-951-1620. Just now, Sam Darnold got nailed in the midsection and left the game. So Nick Mullins is in there playing quarterback for the Vikings currently. We'll have more severe reaction when we come back here on 1620 The Zone.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
14-0 Huskers. Low snap. Brian gets it away. Hangs it toward the end zone. It's going to bounce at the 1 and takes a Husker bounce. Out of bounds at the 5. What a job by Brian Buschini playing her 41-yard punt, 41-yard net as the ball took a right turn out of bounds.
Yeah, that's how we drew it up.
Buschini, the hobbling Brian Buschini is in punt formation. Huskers have had 2 punts blocked. They snap it back. They're fake. Buschini throws it down the field. Matt is caught. Fed to the 40-yard line by Jalen Lloyd. It's a first down. The Huskers with a fake, and Buschini rifles a pass to Jalen Lloyd all the way to the Rutgers 37-yard line. You've got Dremel back at the Knights 40. Bryant hangs one up. Good, high, booming kick. Dremel going back, going to let it bounce. Takes a huge Husker roll inside the 15. Down around the 11-yard line. Brian Buschini. Buschini takes it to the 11-yard line. 69-yard punt.
Oh my gosh, he spun it too. I give him a 10 out of 10. I loved it.
Obviously, he got hit hard, and we knew we were going to call that fake punt, and really almost called it the first time, and then almost called it at the 5-yard line, the one at the 5 when they blocked it. They were bringing 10 guys, and there was no one covering them, and then finally we called it the third time. But I just Brian, what we thought was the unsung hero last week, and I say he's the unsung hero this week.
Welcome back to Severe Reaction here on 1620 The Zone, brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally and answer the phone on the first ring. And Nebraska Medicine, taking care of you and your family. We are joined now by the fine columnist, writer, and podcaster from Husker Online, On 3 Network. Congratulations, Sip.
Oh, what?
You are covering the only team out of 134 teams in the FBS to have not allowed a rushing touchdown this year. Congratulations to you and all your compatriots.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I feel like we've made a lot of progress. That's a great stat. It's not a fluky one either.
No, it's not. And the greatest stat, in my opinion, from the game yesterday, and I know you've covered, what was the first year you covered full-time Nebraska football?
It was 1995.
Okay, so 95, not a bad year for everybody. You're coming up on your 30-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Think about this. Yesterday, Rutgers punted 4 times from the Nebraska's 43, 44, and the 45-yard line twice. Have you ever seen a team punt 4 times from in the opponent's territory in a game?
I mean, it's a rare occurrence.
Yeah,
it's think about that. That's interesting. What do you make of that?
Well, obviously the win's an issue, but I always tell people if you cross the 50-yard line, you're in the territory at 50-yard line, you should score a third of the time. Field goal or touchdown, right? They did it 9 times and they got 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
9 times.
Good defense. I mean, it really is. That's where I'd start. I mean, I think the Nebraska defense the last 2 weeks has played kind of more like we expected at the beginning of the year, and they were fabulous yesterday.
We were joking before the season how like everything you talk about goes back to 2016. It was the first time they've done this since 2016.
Yeah.
So they haven't played this kind of defense just by numbers since that 08 and 09. We know how good those 2 years were. Obviously, you had Sue in there and Jared Crick and all those guys. Do you feel that this is, like you said last night, you're going to again go back to very good defense, but they do face an Indiana team that's top 20 scoring defense, Ohio State, USC at home. Do you feel this is going to travel when you play good offenses?
Well, that's the question. I would say right now that I feel really good about it when they play good running games. I mean, what they did against Purdue was impressive because Maccabee can't hurt you.
Yeah.
And that was, if Purdue was going to beat you, it was going to be because of Maccabee and Reggie Love, doing some damage. They didn't do hardly anything. And then I just think to hold Kyle Monangi, is that it? Is that good?
No.
Kyle Monangi, 78 yards
19 carries is a major triumph.
Yes.
I mean, people are going to try to. They always do. A lot of people do this around here. It seems like they diminish wins. They're worried all week about Rutgers. They're worried about a guy that averaged 147.3 yards per game. But then after the game, they're like, they weren't that good. I know Rutgers is pretty good. They beat Virginia Tech on the road. He's a really good running back. Nebraska shut him down.
Yep.
Shut him down.
Yeah.
So now this is a different world than it was in 2008 and 2009 in terms of conference style of play.
There's better quarterbacks they were facing back then. Big 12 was loaded with some quarterbacks.
That's offense.
Yeah.
It's a very offensive league.
Yep.
So what Nebraska? No, this defense I don't put in that category. But
Right.
this is a good This is a good defense.
Yeah. It's Monungai, in case you want to later in the year go back to it.
Monungai.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
yeah, it's a great name. It's a great running back name for anybody that wants to name their kid something. So Stephen M. Sipple joining us from Husker Online. Of course, you can catch their podcast during the week, and of course the post game show, outstanding, and it's so great. We have a post game show obviously here on this network, Big Red Overreaction. Almost right when they finish, you guys come on. The timing's incredible every week.
Well,
it's perfect.
I appreciate it.
It's perfect. Great to listen to you guys. I want to get a little bit into, because we had one caller call earlier, kind of defending Dylan Raiola because thinks people are a little too critical and everything. And I'm like, freshmen are going to go through tough times. It's just, you're in the Big Ten, you're going to face defensive coordinators who coached in the NFL, right? So that's going to happen. But when you watched him play in that second half, what did you think the biggest issue was for Dylan Raiola? Was it the pressure they were getting on him? Was he seeing ghosts? What did you see from up top?
I looked a little unsettled. I think it was because of Rutgers. Yeah, there's pressure in the pocket at times. I don't think he wasn't seen. Well, I know this. They weren't getting guys open. It wasn't like there were guys running open. There's always something. No, I don't know, Michael.
Well, okay, so go back to the third down sack where they run Barney in motion, and he's there. It's big time college football. When a guy flashes open, you got to throw it. Windows are tight.
Yeah, and I think listen.
Yeah,
we got to zoom out sometimes a little bit.
Sure.
But as you said, Schiano was a high level. This is an NFL level coach. He's a great defensive mind.
Yep.
I do think they did some things to confuse Dylan, which is hard to do. You have to take into account the wind.
Yeah.
Matt Rule said he hadn't encountered wind like that. It's an odd wind in that stadium. It's not just it's at your back half the game and you're going into it the other half. It's not that simple. It swirls. It's an odd configuration, and I think that's in 97 degree heat. There's a lot going on in that game for a quarterback to deal with. The other quarterback wasn't very good either, by the way. He worse, and he's a senior.
Right.
I'm not making excuses for Dylan. I figured that game would come at some point where you'd walk away going, that wasn't a good day for him. I guess I was surprised at how bad it got at times, though. I will say that. And now you got to see how I don't got to see how he rebounds. He's going to rebound.
Right.
I think we have a good idea by now of Dylan's character. He's not going to go into a spiral of any sort. He's not that type of kid.
Right. I thought
it'll be fine. I give Rutgers credit. Rutgers is a good. They're not a great defense. They give it 500 yards to Washington.
Yep. But
they're 521 yards to Washington. Not a great defense, but Michael, you watch the game, look down on the field. The world changes so much when you get out of the non-conference and get into this league. It's a hardcore, big man, tough league, and you bring a bunch of kids from the Northeast in here, and it gets real fast for a true freshman.
Yeah, and even though they gave up 500 and some yards to Washington, even though they have given up a lot of yards, their scoring efficiency defense is in the top 20, and they do for whatever reason make really good plays once you get into scoring range. It's just part of it is you mentioned the defensive coordinator, and they got big boys. I mean, they had I think they had 5 or 6 PBUs yesterday. That's basically what they're averaging a game. Those defensive backs for that, they're pretty good. They're not pushovers.
No, the safety's good. Flip Dixon's not having an extremely good year, but he's good.
Yeah.
Number 10. They're just pretty solid across the board. They're going to win 8 games this year.
With that schedule, they better.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, come on. Even then, though, when you say that, Michael, it sounds like you're diminishing it.
I am, because that schedule is ridiculous. Everybody else got a hard schedule, and their schedule is easy.
It's unfortunate that we do this, but I guess we do it.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of out of that business of continually diminishing what teams do in the Big Ten. You still got to win, and these teams they're all now all the kids are making money. The coaches are making a ton of money. You get the best coaching minds in the business. It's hard. It's really hard to win on Saturday.
Yeah, I always say. So I said this the first time this year. Like, the biggest day of the year for your team is that opening game of the year. The second biggest day is when the schedule comes out. Because if you get I'm serious. So, like, Rutgers gets, I believe I remember correctly, 4 out of the 5 worst teams, and they avoid 4 of the 5 best teams. So if you get that in your schedule, just naturally you got a better chance of having a good year, And so, it's just,
you're right.
Yeah. And they get Michigan State, Maryland, UCLA. I mean, that's the bottom of the, and if you throw Purdue in there, that's the bottom of the Big Ten, So but
you're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. I mean, they have a really advantageous schedule, and the schedules aren't all created equal by a long shot. There's some serious inequity. And Rutgers caught a good one. UCLA's caught a bad one. Purdue caught a really bad one.
Yeah.
And it's going to get that guy fired. But yeah, Nebraska's now is going to get tougher. I mean, it's been tough enough, but that's why yesterday I thought was, I think in the context of the schedule and where that game fell in the schedule, it was a monumental game.
Right.
And they responded very well. I thought Nebraska, getting up 14-0, he felt really good. And they were, and when Buschini threw that dart to Jalen Lloyd on the fake punt, you thought, okay, 21 zip. It's going to get to 21, and this game's over. But they just didn't. They just kept stalling. They stalled offensively on that possession and just kept stalling.
We talk about a lot of guys. We said a lot of names, right? I think it's crazy. How many times have you mentioned Gunnar Gattulo since he's taken over?
Oh, not much at all.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, that was your strength point. You lose your top 2 guys. You go to your 3rd guy, and you're thinking, "Oh, this could be rough," and nobody talks about him. He's doing the job.
Yeah, he's doing the job. Now, the offensive line needs to do a better job.
Sure.
So, in effect, he is part of an offensive line that now it's gone to just basically it seems like a struggle now. They're just not moving the line of scrimmage consistently. I always fall back on moving the line of scrimmage. They're just not getting enough done in the running back run game. And then protection became an issue more yesterday, I thought. So I'm a little, no, I'm not. Gunner's just, he's all right. He's holding up okay.
Yeah. I just think if most teams, you get to the 3rd.
Really
you get to the 3rd guy on most teams, they're probably in trouble. That's all I'm thinking.
Well, that's the thing. Exactly right. I mean, in most, Alabama, if you get down to 3, it might be trouble. Mm-hmm. Especially if they play Vandy.
Yeah. I love Vandy. God, I love Vandy. Give me more Diego Pavia every day. I love him.
But the question I gotta just, the Mazuka equation is really interesting.
It is.
I don't know what you do there. I got to think there's some thought of injecting him back into the lineup. And I know what Rule said last week, and it was sort of the quote of the week when he said, "You guys make a big deal about Mazuka."
He's a backup.
But no, we do because we saw why. I mean, you put him in there on those short yardage situations and run Dowdell over him, and it was a certain first down.
Yeah,
he's a good lineman.
I love unbalanced line is one of my favorite things that people do in football now, because so many people are trying to spread people out. When you do go unbalanced and the defense has got light guys in there because they're doing that on second and third down, I love it. Run to that all day because they can't stop it. Go unbalanced. Yeah.
It was impressive.
No, I'm a fan of that big time. So what do you think, obviously bye week, what do you think Nebraska needs to, outside of special teams? Is there something that you think this week, this bye week, that they really need to concentrate on getting better at, knowing that Indiana and Ohio State are on deck?
Well, hopefully, first of all, just first out of the gate, I don't know how you do it as a head coach. I've seen it done different ways at Nebraska with off weeks, where I can distinctly remember Pelini just kind of mailing in an off week one time, and maybe that's what he felt like that program needed at that point.
Yeah.
In this case, I don't know what you do, Michael. I wonder if you keep hammering on them, you give them a few days. I don't know. I'm me probably well enough. I'm more apt to say, no, guys, this is going to be a pretty normal week, so get ready.
And give them the weekend off. Yeah, work them like normal, but then give them next weekend off.
Yeah, that's what I would do. And I think to answer your question, there's a lot on offense that I don't know. I don't know what you can actually do.
Yeah.
In practice to generate more push up front on your traditional run game. You can work on pass protection. I don't know. I guess where I'm getting at, Michael, is I don't know how much better you can get at that stuff in a week's time.
Do you have a problem with, I know this was a problem that some people had coming into the season. They were worried about taking Dillon off the field to bring in Harburg for some QB run game. Are you still feel that way? Because I think QB run game would be really helpful in this situation. I know Harburg can do it. I think I'd work on getting more of that in there.
I don't know. I cringe a little bit at that thought.
It works across. I mean, you watch college football, and so many teams have it, and so many of those upsets that happened yesterday was because they had mobile quarterbacks who could make plays.
Well, yes, but if you bring him in that situation, everybody knows what's coming.
No, he can still throw the ball. I mean, when you brought in Tim Tebow that first year that Florida won the national championship, when Leak was the quarterback, the thing that beat people was that jump pass at the goal line. He can still throw, but he also gives you some quarterback run.
Okay, I mean, the discussion is this: is it disruptive to rhythm?
Right. That's the
now,
question.
Your counter would be, well, they don't have any rhythm.
Where's the rhythm?
Right. So I'm pretty open-minded. I mean, I'm pretty open-minded about it. I was a little taken aback by the level of futility of Nebraska's offense yesterday. I wonder a little bit about play calling. I do. It doesn't seem like, just seems like it's overthought at times. It's easy. That's as Damon likes to say, our friend. It's low-hanging fruit all the time. It's always low-hanging fruit. Rhythm.
Yeah.
Is something that's just been so hard to come by for that offense. They just don't get into anything, it seems like.
Right.
Clunky.
Yeah. Hey, Sip, last thing. If I was going to give you one team in college football that you could say, this team's going to win, I guarantee it, who's that team this year?
Oh, I mean, Texas has got to be the closest thing.
It's got to be Texas, right? Texas, Ohio State, one of those two, maybe?
Yeah, Ohio State. Ohio State seems like a good pick there too. Yeah, those two. If I was gonna, wager who's gonna end up playing for all the marbles, Texas and Ohio State right now is what it looks like.
Wow, that'd be a hell of a matchup. Hey, Sip, we appreciate it as always. Enjoy the bye week. We all need it. Get some riding done on the bike and all that kind of stuff as well. And take it easy.
We all need it, Michael.
No doubt.
Have a good one.
All right, you too. Stephen and Sipple Husker Online. Yeah, we do. It's been a long. Hey, man, we're not roofing. We're not laying concrete, but it's been tiring. We'll take a break. Lance, stay right there. We got to get caught up on the clock. We'll take a break. We'll come back. More severe reaction. Take your phone calls 402-951-1620 here on 1620 The Zone.
Host is roasting every morning. Host is roasting every day.
Host Coffee stands as the vibrant heart of every break room, offering the unique fusion of traditional quality and modern flair. We're not just your coffee provider, we're the center of memorable workplace moments. Call Host Coffee today.
Proudly serving Nebraska since 1972. Host Coffee is always roasting something good for you.
Motions a wide out. Gets the snap. Looking left, throwing left, and nearly picked off. Huskers have stopped him. Will take over on downs at the 2-yard line. What a stand by the Black Shirts. 2 wide outs left, one to the near side. Calliat Manis, who's 9 of 22 in the shotgun. Gets the snap. Backpedals. Holds. Being rushed, gets hit, goes down, another sack. Nash Hutmaker gets his second sack of the year, all the way back to the 34-yard line. Shotgun for Calliat Manis. Gets the belt high snap, has some time, gets hit, goes down. Huskers will take over on downs. James Williams again gets home.
Yeah. It wasn't real rocket science, right? Heat them up, sit on the sticks, make them play big boy football.
I think the thing that our guys are learning is when you have some adversity, it's an opportunity for you to rise up and do something special. You know, I think we're getting past the point of wanting things to be easy, hoping the other team doesn't play well, and just wanting to go out and play well ourselves. And so that's the message in this building. Hey, don't want it to be easy. Go out there and play. And I thought they took the field. They wanted to get out there. You know, we took the PI. They played hard. I mean, Tony had a little twist stunt. He ran twice. Nash came around one. I forget. I don't want to not give credit to somebody, but they made big hits and kind of knocked it out of there. And then
welcome back to the reaction here on 1620 The Zone. I got the camera back up. Sorry about that. Phone died. If anybody was watching it on the stream, right now Aaron Rodgers is being a big baby. Just wanted to point that out. He's not playing well, and he's being a big baby. He's yelling at his offensive coordinator to hurry up. He's not playing well. So anyway, 10-0 Minnesota Vikings. Someone in the stream, I think it was Brandon, referenced Army-Navy. This is the best start combined for Army-Navy. I think I have this right. I think it's 1944. I think it's either 1944 or 46.
Wow.
It's World War II era.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, to be starting the way they have, which is pretty awesome for those two organizations. And go Army, beat Navy. Let's go back to the phones. 402-951-1620. That's where Lance is this morning. What's up, Lance?
Morning, Michael. Hey, thanks for this great Sunday show. You know, we are seeing substance and progress all over the field. Yet another week where they win the turnover battle.
Yep.
Against the Greg Schiano team. We have not lost the turnover battle once. I mean, you think you have to address the fire that's going on in the house, and they have addressed that and the debacles. You think about, Matt Rule has mentioned, I've watched Kirk Perez. He gets that wind in that fourth quarter, and that Buschini punt, which flipped the field, which we've talked about Big Ten football, is you have to flip the field. That wind made a difference. And to the fans, we have got to reset. I know people think about it, but take a step back. College football is like the NFL. It's a just win baby mentality, right? Because everyone has the money now. We're not 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, where Purdue wasn't spending money. Indiana wasn't spending money. They have great coaches. They have training tables, all the things that you can do. Just look around college football. You think Alabama would like to have had a 1-point win against Vandy yesterday? Absolutely. So we're not in the 90s. This whole try and win pretty and all this other sort of stuff, and specifically with the playoff, like we have to mentally shift that any win is a good win. And you need to start watching college football like you watch the NFL, because everyone knows those games are close. Anybody can beat anybody. Heck, the Raiders went in and just pick six to met Mahomes twice on Christmas Day and beat the Super Bowl champs. Anything can happen.
Yep.
So, we have got to flip our mindset and realize just win and just be happy. And there is progress all over this program.
Yeah, no doubt. Lance, we appreciate it. Yeah, I said this at the beginning of the show. You don't get any extra points. There's no extra column for pretty win or blowout win or one score win. It's just winning. There's nothing in there. You don't get any bonus points. And so you go out there and you take care of business, whether it's ugly or it's pretty. Listen, Miami had an amazing comeback to be able to win against Cal. They went to Berkeley, were trailing, had to have 21 points in the fourth quarter with one of the highest paid NIL quarterbacks. They went in there and had to escape with their lives. And I'm sure they're happy as heck right now to get out of the way they did. They're not worried about beating Cal by whatever the line was. They're just happy they beat them by one. That's all you care about. Real quick before we take a break, on Husker Online on the PFF grades, and I knew that Rutgers got a lot of pressure, but wow. 13 pressures yesterday. They had 20 total coming into the game, and they had 13 yesterday. 13 pressures. That is brutal. And they only blitzed on 9 of the 32 dropbacks. So they were getting pressure without blitzing against that offensive line. Jimmy, stay right there. We'll take a break. Got to get caught up on the clock. 402-951-1620. More severe reaction when we come back.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
Elliott Menace has Manunga to the right. Claps the hands, gets the snap. Looking left, looking middle, dancing, throwing out pattern, caught at the 2, diving, touchdown Rutgers.
Boy, that is a pick.
Ben Black, who dropped the one on the near sideline, made a tough grab and then a hard run to dive over the goal line for 6 points here with 4:08 to go. We still have a game in Lincoln.
Yes, we do.
If you go back to the first half, really a lot of those plays were just missed tackles. Gift comes off the edge, hit him in the backfield, just missed the tackle, right? They have one that starts right, comes all the way back, winds back, missed the tackle. So it wasn't like, oh, they've got us on this scheme. We're so grateful to have the iPads now because you can kind of look at it and be like, it's not a scheme thing. We're just missing tackles. They had the 1 3rd and 22 after the sack, and they checked it down, and he made a guy miss and got it to 4th and 3. So I think it was more that, to be honest with you.
That touchdown pass, Buford got his hand on it. When he threw it, I thought it was going to be intercepted. And Buford had obviously the knockdown at the other end on the goal line stance, but he had a really good chance on that touchdown pass. Got his hand on it, but the wide receiver made a heck of a play. Dropped the one wide open, let it hit him in his face mask, but the one that's tipped and he's making it while turning his body makes that catch. It's crazy to think about. 402-951-1620. We'll get to the good and bad. Looks like Aaron Jones is a little banged up for the Minnesota Vikings. anybody who Green Bay Packers fan knows that feeling because he's been injured like that on and off.
Hamstring all the time.
That is, he's a soft tissue guy. Let's go to the let's go back to the phones where Jimmy is this morning. Good morning, Jimmy.
Hello.
Hey, Jimmy.
Hey, I'm sorry, it's Danny. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, you're good, Michael. Hey, I just wanted to call and say, man, I love the show. I've been listening to you for years. I love what you do. You always bring a little ray of sunshine into our Sunday mornings, whether it's a win or loss after a Nebraska game. I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm sure we all appreciate you. But that being said, I do have a correction for you. I believe earlier you said something that was backwards. It's go Navy, beat Army.
No, I had it. I had it right. I'm almost positive.
Well, we'll agree to disagree. And also, since we're talking about that, do those military academies, do they get any kind of NIL deal, or is it pretty much they're on the government side?
From what I understand, there isn't. That's what I was originally told. I don't know if anything's changed. And then only one of the three, if I'm correct, are doing the transfer portal stuff too. So yeah, they're at a made disadvantage.
I was just wondering, they obviously are because it's hard to get, everybody with the talent, they want to go somewhere big. It's good to see these kids go to military academies. But anyway, just wanted to say thanks for what you're doing, and go Navy, beat Army. Talk to you later.
I appreciate it. No, I was listening to a podcast last week, and they were talking about how, Air Force obviously is struggling this year, and Army, Navy are getting out to good starts. But I think I have this right. Army has taken some transfer portal, but Navy, I remember what it was. So, the extra year for COVID, one of the two, I can't remember which one it was right now, but decided that, yes, they would let them have that extra year, which is not traditional at the military academies, and the other one didn't. So, but they're both off to really good starts. Air Force is struggling, but Army and Navy both playing well. It's good. It's awesome to see. One more thing from PFF, looking at the running backs and the way that game went. Now, I had a caller earlier talking about he thought Ramir Johnson looked better in the game, and by the way the stats break up, it does show that in the limit. So he only had 18 snaps. Dowdell had 18. Emmett Johnson had the most with 33 snaps and probably had, of the three, the worst day. Emmett Johnson had one run of 9 yards. You take that away, then he had 24 on 13 attempts. So that's tough. He also had a quarterback hurry. Ramir Johnson, 18 snaps, 5 run plays, 9 pass plays. And so, yeah, being able to figure out the hot hand or that rotation with running backs has been very difficult. There's moments where you think, well, Dowdell should get 20. And then what did we say last week? Emmett Johnson comes in, starts making guys miss. And we say, yeah, that it should be Emmett Johnson. The guy who took the first snap of the first game was Ramir Johnson. I love having Ramir in the game because I think he does a whole bunch of great stuff. Obviously catches the ball out of the backfield really well. I think he's really good in pass pro for the most part, but they've all made their mistakes. They've all had problems. The guy we haven't seen much is Gabe Ervin. I wonder if at some point he gets a shot. Certainly a possibility. We got to take a break right now? Or are we good for a while? Okay, good. Awesome. So I want to get to the good and bad real quick from the game. There's a lot of good. We've been talking about a lot of things that Nebraska struggled with yesterday, but there's a lot of good. I mentioned this earlier. You give up 7 points. You give up 7 points on 69 plays. 69 plays. The team you're playing crosses your 50-yard line 9 times, and you give up 7 points. 78 yards. That's how many the number 2 rusher coming in the Big Ten got. 8 carries for 64 yards in the first quarter, and then you figure out a way to shut him down. And it's difficult for a couple of reasons because, one, he's shifty, right? That whole shifty thing. He's got sneaky quickness, and he's strong. So that combination, he's not big. I don't think he's got great top-end speed, but all the other things you need to be a good running back. He's got good balance. Second half, 16 rushes. Now, this is a sack-adjusted number, of course, because of the 4 sacks. They had less than 1 yard a carry. Less than 1 yard a carry. You forced them to throw 22 passes in the second half. Rutgers doesn't want to do that. That's what Nebraska's defense did. Ended up being 9 of 22 with the interceptions, 3 sacks, 113 yards with 43 of them on 1 pass in that second half. Nebraska dominated defensively. And they held Rutgers 3 of 12 on 3rd and 4th down combined. Number 2, good, obviously, Brian Buschini. He had the 61-yarder, the 69-yarder. All that was great. Buschini averaged 50.2 yards on the 5 punts. Also had the 30-yard pass on the fake punt. All of that following being absolutely crushed on that first block punt. He got up from that, and in the end of the game gets a game ball, and I'm hoping a heating pad because that was vicious. And then the third one was all the young guys on defense. James Williams comes in that second half. He should have probably had 3 sacks. He gets 2 sacks, had 2 TFLs, 4 solo tackles, 2 quarterback hurries. He was everywhere in that second half. Give props to Riley Van Poppel, who was probably going to get redshirted. That's the plan, right? They need him. They're going 4 defensive linemen for a lot of that game, and he comes in there and gives them valuable snaps. He only had 1 tackle, but a lot of times interior defensive linemen, they do their job, and you don't even hear about them. He's doing his job. Vincent Shavers, who switched numbers with Jamari Butler, 10 and 1. He's now 1. Again, didn't have great numbers, but he was flying around. I see exactly what people say when they talked about Vincent Shavers before the season, about what he could be. You can see him flying around. And then I know he's not a new guy, but seeing Javin Wright out there, he looked great. He did. He made a couple nice plays, filled the hole. He had back-to-back tackles on inside runs where he was the guy that, dropped interception by the Jets. He was the guy that was dependent on to make that play, and he made the play both times. The bad, obviously, the second half. Offensively, the second half. Nebraska had 206 yards in the first half. They had 86 yards rushing, 3.7 yards a carry. Not great, but it's against Rutgers, and, they're struggling a little bit. Raiola was 11 of 18 for 120 yards, that interception in the first half. Second half, Nebraska only ran 29 plays. Average 1.9 yard a play. Sack adjusted, just brutal. 2 of 9 on 3rd down. Just Greg Schiano was teaching a senior level class to a true freshman playing quarterback. That's what it was. And all the pressure they were getting, I read earlier the numbers from PFF, the amount of pressure they got on him. And this is not a team that gets a lot of pressure. They're not. They had 4 sacks coming in. They got 4 sacks. They had 14 tackles for loss. They got 7 of them yesterday. We mentioned they had 20 quarterback hurries coming in, and they got like 12 of them yesterday. It's one of those where they had a good day, had a good game plan. Nebraska still won the game. Dylan missed 7 of his last 8 throws in the game, and a couple of them, as I said, the window was open for a throw, and it didn't happen. And then block punts, obviously, every week we're going to pick, I guess, one spot on special teams, and that'll be the problem. It'll kick a ball out of bounds or kick the ball to somebody and they have a long kickoff return, or you're going to miss field goals, or you're going to have bad snaps, or you're going to do poorly in return coverage. Whatever it is, it's like every single week there's one thing you pick, and Nebraska struggles at it. And obviously it was the block punts this week. That's 5 block punts. They had 5 block kicks. So you had 3 block punts now and 2 blocked field goals. 5 on a season. That you just don't see that. I mean, in a whole year, and Nebraska's done it in 6 games. And then the last thing is havoc allowed. I mentioned this a second ago. This is a team in Rutgers that didn't cause a lot of havoc. We're talking PBUs, passes broken up, interceptions, forced fumbles, sacks. That's not something they did well. They just didn't. And against Nebraska, they did it all. Every one of them. That same amount of sacks, got more TFLs, which isn't one of them, but they did everything havoc-wise that they had to do to win that game. And they didn't win it, but Rutgers had every chance because of things they did havoc-wise and getting to Dylan Raiola. We'll get to the keys of the game and how that went, and also look back at the Big Ten and ahead to Indiana when we come back here on Severe Reaction.
Raiola turns, hands it off to Ramir, picking his way around the left edge, gets a cut, 25-20. Ramir inside the 15, down to the 12-yard line. Nice run by Ramir Johnson for 18 yards.
Yeah, watch the puller. So pretty. And Ramir's patience to hit the crease.
Dillon claps his hands, back to throw, steps, throws in the flat, passes caught by Fedoni, leans, and they'll say he did not get in. He's out at the 1 yard line. He reached out with a football, but the official on that side said that he was out at the 1.
The ruling on the field that the runner's foot was out of bounds with the ball at the 1 stands. It is 4th down.
Not enough to overturn it, right?
No, not enough at all.
Browns the back, 2 wideouts right, 1 to the near side. Snap back to Kaliak Menace, steps, pumps, hit, down. Sacked at the 46-yard line. Huskers get another sack. Guess who? James Williams, second sack of the day.
The key is that we didn't, we protected the ball. We had the 1 interception on the RPO, but after that, even as he's taking those sacks, he's at least protecting the football and we're punting the ball away. So, every week, last week it was the field goal, this week it was the punt, this week it was a couple sacks. There's a lot of things we have to improve upon in all areas. Kind of as we fix one thing, something else pops up, but
Welcome back to a reaction here on 1620 The Zone, watching Justin Jefferson, the best wide receiver in the league, I guess. I'm sure there's an argument with some people, but I remember talking to Mickey Joseph about Justin Jefferson years ago because they weren't going to offer him a scholarship at LSU. And the only reason Justin Jefferson got a scholarship off from LSU is, remember, his older brother played quarterback there at LSU, and that's why they offered him. I think he was just a 3-star, and look what he's become. So kids, don't let somebody tell you can't be what you want to be. Go out there and make it happen. Game keys for me coming into the game. The number one was, of course, big plays against Rutgers. Rutgers gave up a lot of big plays coming into the game. They were sitting at, I think, 55 big plays. That's 10 plus through 4 games, which is pretty high, thinking of they only had played 4 games. Now, Nebraska only had 8 big plays, which is fewer than I thought they would. 4 run, 4 pass, but it was for 177 yards. Yesterday really was a boom or bust day for that Nebraska team because they only had 261 yards. 177 of them were plays that were either 10 or plus yards rushing or 15 or plus yards passing. Now, on the other hand, Rutgers also had 8 big plays, 3 rushing, 5 passing, and they had it for 155 yards. So didn't have a lot of big plays. There's usually a few more than that, but both teams took advantage of those. Nebraska more so because obviously they got the win. Number 2 for me in terms of the keys was you had to stop the RPO. You had to stop Kaliak Menace. I think, by the way, his leg he had that brace on. I think he was a little injured. So I think that kept them from running as many RPOs because part of the RPO is when he fakes that handoff and he rolls out, there has to be the threat of him running. And I don't think there was really the threat of him running yesterday. And I thought one of the big concerns would be them getting the ball that are tight end or running backs out of the RPO. Combine the running back and their tight end, 5 receptions for just 26 yards. So Nebraska did a good job. It was a little bit different than I thought they would have because of the injury, I think, to the quarterback. But 15 of 37, 186 yards and 2 interceptions, He missed 6 of his last 8 passes, and there was pressure on him that entire second half. And then the last key, of course, was special teams is kind of locked in the keys, and you're getting closer and closer to having to make some tough decisions. They made a tough decision in changing out the long snapper for a second. You're now at your backup kicker because of the injury, Tristan Alvano. I said this earlier. I like Ed Foley. I think Ed Foley brings a lot to the coaching staff. I think he loves this state. I'm a fan of his, but you can't have one of your phases harming you to the point where you're going to lose games because of it. Harrison Smith with the blitz off the edge for the sack, and the Jets are officially just beat.
Back to dumpster fire.
It is bad. It is really, really bad. But again, I hopefully he comes back and they get things fixed over this bye week. The second 6 games and then the bye and then the bowl game. Nebraska has great special teams, and Ed Foley's back. I certainly hope that's the case. But currently, things are tough, really tough for him and for the group that he is coaching. But like somebody said on the stream, somebody had to send those players during halftime over there to test to do the fake. You got to have somebody to spot it in the film that Rutgers is sending these extra guys and leaving the gunner open. That's Ed Foley's job. It's Ed Foley's job to get Buschini ready for that, to make sure that play call is right, all that stuff. So he's doing things out there, but I know a lot of people want to see him gone because of the struggles. And it's just little things. It's little special teams is a series of little things that can cost you big. That's it. You've got these guys who, when I covered the NFL years ago, I was always amazed. The punters and kickers be off to the side, just kind of chilling, leaning on a fence, talking to the female fans. They're just chilling. But then, Morton Anderson at the time for the Saints had to make some huge kicks in games. Had to make some huge kicks. So yeah, they got a lot of downtime, and maybe it looks like they're not really a football player or whatever else. They have to make things happen that will win you and lose you games at a level of almost the quarterback, obviously, but then kickers win and lose games for you, especially college kickers. How many games did you watch yesterday where college kickers struggled to get those kicks made, and that one play led to a game where you had somebody to go down there and get a late score or whatever else? It's big, and Nebraska needs to get it fixed, and hopefully it's not at the cost of losing Ed Foley. Break?
Oh, definitely. That's correct.
Yeah. We take a break? I don't know. Where are we in breaks wise?
We got one more break left.
Okay.
It's a short break. You got time.
Okay, I got time. I want to just quickly talk about, as I was going over the defensive numbers, and they give us great notes, and great job by Keith Mann Experience handing out these notes about the way the defense is played. And I brought this up when we had Sip on, because this defense is doing things like the 08 and 09 defenses. And I know you remember, yes, they were inept offensively, especially at quarterback in 09, but that defense was the number one defense in the country, number one scoring defense in the country. It was incredible. And I know Nebraska's not there yet, right? Because they're getting ready to match up against some really good offenses coming up. They're going to play Indiana's 13th in points per play offense, USC's 49th, but they're much better at home, and Ohio State is 6th. So you've got some really good offensives coming up. But here's what they've done so far. Again, Nebraska held a team scoreless in the first half. Second straight opponent, third time in 6 games that the opponent didn't score in the first half. You don't see that a lot, again, in 2024 college football with the offenses the way they are. Rutgers, 264 total yards. 13 consecutive opponents now, fewer than 400 yards. 400 yards is kind of the benchmark now because of the way offenses can be. Last time Nebraska held more than 13 straight opponents to fewer than 400 yards, it was a 14-game stretch from the end of 08 through 09, going back to those years again. And then I mentioned with Sip, the only team in FBS to not have allowed a rushing touchdown. And they had to do everything in the world to stop it from happening yesterday. Now, I thought that the play on first down, I thought Monungai had scored because he gets hit and he kind of has that second effort. I thought he rolled in the end zone, but they didn't even, I didn't see them review it. Now, every play in college football is reviewed upstairs, so maybe they did and they just decided not to stop for the review, but it looked close to me. It looked close. But anyway, Nebraska, the only team in the country, has not allowed a rushing touchdown this season. We'll take a break. We'll look back at what happened in the Big Ten yesterday and some crazy upsets in the top 25 when we come back here on Severe Reaction.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
And this is going to be a fun postgame. Going to be a fun locker room. Hard-fought win. Bye week coming up. Chance to heal some bumps and bruises. Carry some momentum against a team in 2 weeks in Indiana that's got a ton of momentum. They're ranked, undefeated, and a spot for Indiana football they haven't been at maybe ever. So that's going to set up a fun matchup in 2 weeks. Huskers 14, Rutgers 7 on a warm day here in Lincoln.
Yeah, it was good to get Mike involved in the game, and this will be a tape that we can learn a lot from as we heal this week. It's been a tough ride here, right? So in terms of six, not many teams in the Big Ten I don't think have done 6 straight games. Maybe a couple have. A lot have had a bye. So I'm glad we have a bye, and we'll see if we can get better.
Welcome back. It's a reaction here on 1620 The Zone, wrapping up the show. We are not on next week because we only come on after games. And so off next week for the bye week. As Coach Matt Rule said, 6 straight weeks, 4 of them night games. And this is like kind of a part of a night game because obviously when the game ended, it was kind of going towards night.
Yeah, I would say.
That'll wear you out. That will wear you out. It wears out the mentality sometimes because your sleep gets messed up. I mean, really and truly, and you know this, especially when it comes to men and growing young men, your testosterone is highest in the morning, and that's by noontime, you're ready to go. They're ready to play some football. Certainly by 1 o'clock, the old time for starting games. You can get ready, you can do all things you want, but it's not normal to be playing those night games. It's just not. I know young people stay up later and everything. It's just not, though. Physically, it takes you, it drains you mentally. And I think that's where Nebraska is right now. They need that bye. I know I need the bye. There's no doubt about that. Brandon says people are saying Satterfield is good at play calling this year. A couple of clever plays on film, maybe. They don't get it to their fastest player the last 3 quarters. I do wonder why sometimes, and they got a lot of guys, right, to get the ball to. They got a lot of mouths to feed. But Jalen Lloyd is a person that needs to touch the ball. I think Jalen Lloyd needs to touch the ball 4 or 5. As much as Ja'Cory Barney needs to touch the ball, Jalen Lloyd needs to touch the ball. Remember some of those deep shots you were getting to Jalen Lloyd last year? Remember the guy who had 3 touchdowns over 50 yards? Similar to Marvin Harrison at Ohio State? You need to get the ball to him more. You need to get the ball to him down the field more. That's something they need to concentrate in the second half. As I mentioned, crazy day for the Big Ten, crazy day for top 25 teams overall. In the Big Ten, a couple of them weren't surprising. I thought Washington would beat Michigan, and not just because of the revenge factor, because few of those players are even back. I just thought that without Michigan being able to throw, and they did bring in the 3rd-string quarterback, who's been in a couple different schools. They did bring him in the second quarter, which got them 10 points, made it 14-10. He actually had a nice drive in the 3rd quarter as well. But without having a quarterback that can make clutch plays for you down the stretch, you're not going to beat good teams usually. They beat USC. That was a great win on the ground and everything else. But Washington kind of explodes them a little. Washington beats Michigan, not a surprise. That's number 10 goes down. Number 11, USC goes down to Minnesota. Here's a crazy stat for you. USC playing in the Central or Eastern time zones is over their last 10. Isn't that crazy? I bet Michigan just because of that reason. I'm like, 9 in a row. I got to get on that trend. And USC falls again. That's number 11 team goes down. Number 23, Indiana. We mentioned it, 6-0. Good win over Northwestern. Just took care of business. 41-24. Wasn't pretty. 5 of the 6 games this season, Indiana has outscored their opponents 177-79. So they scored over 41 points in 5 of the 6 games, and in the last 5, they've outscored their opponent 177-79. Wow, they're playing some incredible football. And of course, Nebraska travels to Bloomington in 2 weeks to take on Indiana. Look, I know Indiana's good. I've looked at the numbers, going to get deeper into it, watching more of their film and stuff. But let me tell you something. Watching them play, and they battled against adversity against Maryland. Don't get me wrong. Nebraska's going to be the best team they played this year. If Nebraska can get a lead, make them play from behind, I think they can give them I really think Nebraska has a shot, but they can't let Indiana get ahead. I think Indiana's front running. Their offense is too good. I don't think Nebraska, as good as their defense is, if Indiana gets up, it's going to be tough for Nebraska to chase them. I just don't think they have the offense to be able to do that. Other top 25, Bama falls to Vandy. All right.
That was awesome.
Diego Pavia getting it done. First time in 60 games in the history of Vandy beat a top 5 team.
That's amazing. And they almost defeated Missouri a couple weeks ago.
They did. That's what made me think Missouri wasn't as good as they were, and I liked them yesterday against A&M. Arkansas knocks off Tennessee.
Yeah,
this is game. One where just simple theory. Arkansas secondary is incredibly physical. Tennessee's got a bunch of sprinters. And I thought to myself, if Arkansas is physical with them, they may give them trouble. If you watch the second half of that game, because I didn't watch the first half, you watch the second half of that game, they were beating up the wide receivers of Tennessee. They were getting up slow. They didn't want to reach out for balls. They were getting banged around. They let them play, and that was the key to that game. Arkansas knocking them off. Number 8, Miami, 21 points in the fourth quarter to come back and beat Cal 39-38. Feel sorry for Cal. Was right there. Had the chance to win it at home. They did. SMU beat number 22 Louisville on Friday night. Number 25 UNLV fell to Syracuse. So it was a lot of teams. I assume Nebraska's going to be in the top 25. We're going to have a top 25 matchup in 2 weeks against Indiana. We are off next week, as I mentioned, because there's no game. But Severe Reaction will be back after the Indiana game in a couple of weeks for what is one of the biggest games that Nebraska's played on the road in years. Have a great weekend. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
From the biggest plays the day before in college football.
McCord looks, fires, intercepted! Rod Moore! And Michigan will win the game and head